Hello students. In the previous lecture, we have studied the ecosystem and biodiversity services. In that, we have studied the various services. Those were ecological, economic, social, ethical, aesthetic, and informational value. After that, we have studied that why there is a need to think about the services, for which type and the number of necessary species necessary to support each services. Then we have studied the ecology, ecosystem, and biodiversity. In that, we have studied what is ecology. So it's simply the study of interrelationship of different organisms. Then we have studied ecosystem, that is the interaction of all the living and non-living factors of the environment. Then we have studied the biodiversity, the diversity within and among species and ecosystem, and the level of biodiversity, that is at genetic level, at species level, and at ecosystem level. Then we have studied the ecosystem services. In that, we have studied the ecosystem and human well-being, a frame for assessment. In that, we have studied the 4 types of services. That is the first, that was the provisioning services. The second, regulating services. The third, that is the cultural services. And the fourth, that is the supporting services. In that, the first we have discussed about the provisioning services. The provisioning services are the material benefits people get from the ecosystem and nature. Then we have discussed the regulating services. The regulating services are the benefits provided by ecosystem processes like decomposition, air, water, purification, erosion, flood control, carbon storage, pollination, climate regulation, disease regulation. Then we have studied the cultural services. In cultural services, we have studied the contribution to the development and cultural advancement and the ecosystem's role in local, national, and the global cultures. Then we have studied the cultural, intellectual, and social development by the cultural services. Then we have studied the supporting services. And in supporting services, we have discussed that whatever the supporting services, they are how mandatory for maintaining the all type of other 3 services, or how supporting services play a vital role for availing the other 3 services like provisional services, regulating services, and cultural services. And if the supporting services will not be there, then we won't be able to avail the provisional services, regulating services, and cultural services. Then we have discussed the diagram of all the 4 services. In that, the supporting services include the soil formation, biodiversity, habitat, photosynthesis. In provisioning services, it includes water, it includes food, medicine, raw material. Then in regulating services, it includes flood control, climate regulation, cleaning water and air, pollution, education, and recreation, spirituality, and aesthetic. So there should be a balance between all the 4 types of the services. Then we have studied the value of biodiversity. So the value of biodiversity can be divided as the direct values and indirect values. Direct values are the values also known as use value. and commodity values, which are assigned to the products harvested by people. These values can be further subdivided as a consumptive use value. It can be assigned to goods such as fuel wood and goods that are consumed locally and do not figure in national and international market. Then comes the productive use value. It is assigned to products that are derived from the wild and sold in commercial markets, both national as well as international markets. Indirect values. Indirect values are assigned to benefits provided by biodiversity that do not involve harvesting or destroying the natural resource. Such benefits include ecological benefits such as soil formation, nutrient cycling, waste disposal, air and water, purification, education, recreation, etc. Indirect value can be further subdivided as non-consumptive use value, aesthetic, social, and cultural value. Ethical value. So here if we see the direct value means whatever the value we use, whatever the commodities we use from the nature. In that, the first is the consumptive value and the second is the productive value. Consumptive value means assigned to goods or whatever the goods we are consuming locally. And we are consuming those goods which won't have any concern with the financial or with the economical issue. But the productive use value, if we are using these products, means they are at the commercial level. They are at the commercial markets, both national as well as international markets. Indirect values means they are not directly related with the goods. They are not directly related with the commodities, but they are related with the ecological benefits, with the nature, such as soil formation, nutrient cycling, waste disposal, air and water purification, education, recreation. In that, A is non-consumptive use value, B is aesthetic, social, and cultural value, D is ethical value. A, non-consumptive use value. It is assigned to benefits such as soil formation, protection, climate regulation, waste disposal, water and air purification, eco-tourism, medical research, etc. Aesthetic, social, and cultural value. The diversity of life on Earth brings us many aesthetic and cultural benefits. It adds to the quality of life providing some of the most beautiful and appealing aspect of our existence. Biodiversity is an important quality for landscape beauty. Many species of birds, large land mammals, sea animals, and flowering plants are appreciated for their beauty. Contact with nature can also be psychologically and emotionally restorative. In many cultures, nature carries spiritual connotations, and a particular plant or animal species or landscape may be inextricably linked to a sense of identity and meaning. Today, we contribute to imbue certain animals and plants with cultural significance. For instance, in India, tiger and peacock, which are endangered, are especially valued because they have been adopted as national animal and bird respectively. Ecosystem and biodiversity services. Under that, the first, that is the ecological values. The second, that is economic values. The third, that is consumptive values. The fourth, that is aesthetic values. The fifth, that is scientific values. And the next, that is social values. Ecological services. Ecological life support biodiversity provides functioning ecosystems that supply oxygen, clean air, and water, pollination of plants, pest control, wastewater treatment, and many ecosystem services. Ecosystem services such as protection of water resource, hydrological cycle, soils formation and protection, soil conservation, nutrient storage and recycling, biochemical cycles, pollution, breakdown and absorption, purifying air, water, and soil, contribution to climate stability, regulation of weather and climate, maintenance of ecosystem stability, anthropogenic carbon shrinkage and carbon sequestration, recovery from unpredictable events. Oxygen. Through photosynthesis, plants use carbon dioxide, sunlight, and water to create energy and release oxygen. In turn, plants and animals breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. One of the biggest source of oxygen is phytoplankton living near the ocean surface. Trees and other plants absorb ground level ozone, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and other greenhouse gases. Then comes the decomposition. Decomposition is the natural process of dead animals or plant material rotting and being broken down. Bacteria, fungi, Worm, flying insects, beetles, and other living creatures are decomposers. Decomposers recycle carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus, providing essential nutrients for new plants to grow. Without their work, it is possible that the earth would be unable to support life. Drinking water. Biodiversity sustains the water cycle, water moving over or under the ground, evaporating and transpiring into the atmosphere, then falling back to earth as rain or snow, and is sustained by biodiversity. Transpiration, the movement of water through vegetation and soil, provides 62% of annual renewable fresh water on our planet. Groundwater, water that seeps underground, is the major source of drinking water for many people. Biodiversity cleanses the purified water. Wetland plants, for instance, help remove heavy metals and excessive levels of nutrients. Vegetation can affect local rainfall patterns. Large-scale removal of plants changes these patterns. Healing and recovery from natural disasters. A variety of species in a wide manner in an ecosystem provides an ecosystem with greater resistance to disease and pest outbreaks. Plants help protect soil from erosion. Bacteria, insects, plants, and other living creatures release nutrients and help keep soil fertile. Flood control, cyclone resistance in coastal areas. An ecosystem with rich biodiversity is more resilient and able to withstand the extinction of an individual species. Economic services, foods, food crops, livestock, forestry, and fish, fruits, honey, much more of food exists because the ecological services of pollinate. Fish provide billions of people with essential animal proteins. Thousands of species of plants have been cultivated for consumption throughout human history. Meat from native wildlife contributes to food and livelihoods in many countries. Medication. Many wild plant species have been used for medicinal purposes from time immemorial. For example, quinine comes from cinchona tree. Used to treat malaria, digitoxin from the foxglove plant to treat chronic heart trouble, and morphine from the poppy plant pain relief. Aspirin was originally made from willow tree bark, and penicillin and tetracycline, as well as antibiotics, are derived from microorganisms. Over 70% of the promising anti-cancer drugs come from plants in the tropical rainforest. Animals may also play a role. It estimates that Of the 250,000 known plant species, only 5,000 have been researched for possible medicinal applications. Industry: wood for shelter, warmth, furniture, and infrastructures. Paper from softwoods and grass. Textiles: cottons and fibers for clothing. Energy: biodiversity may be a source of energy such as biomass. Agro-based industry: supplies from animal origin are wool, silk, fur, leather, lubricants, and waxes. Animal husbandry: animals may also be used as a mode of transportation. Tourism and recreation: biodiversity is a source of economical wealth for many areas, such as many parks and forests where wild plants and animals are a source of beauty and joy for many people. Ecotourism, in particular, is a growing outdoor recreational activity. Other industrial products are oils, lubricants, perfume, fragrances, dyes, paper, waxes, rubber, latex, resins, poisons, and cork can all be derived from various species. Aesthetic value: stretches of barren lands with no signs of visible life is not a pleasant sight. The pleasure of enjoying wildlife beauty, scenic beauty, ecotourism is based on the aesthetic value of biodiversity. Ecotourism is estimated to generate about $12 billion of revenue annually. Ethical role: ethical values is also sometimes known as existence value. It involves ethical issues like all life must be preserved and the concept of life at net life. If humans consider a species have a right to access, they cannot use voluntarily their extinction. Besides, biodiversity is also support part of many cultures of spiritual heritage. Scientific values: studying and research on plants and animals. Each species can give scientists some clues as to how life evolved and will continue to evolve on Earth. Biodiversity helps scientists understand how life functions and the role of each species in sustaining ecosystem. Search for their possible use of medication, integrated pest management. Social value: values associated with the social life, customs, religion, and psycho-spiritual aspects of people. Many of the plants are considered holy and sacred in our country. Tulsi, people, and mango. Many animals like cow, snake, bull, peacock also have significant place in our psycho-spiritual arena and thus hold special social importance. Most unique feature of Earth is